This is Last Watch. He's your host, Bernard Meisler. I'm your host, Tony DuShane. Today on the show, we're talking about Nathan for You, Season 3, Episode 3. The show was titled The Movement.
Yes,
Bernard.
it's a classic Nathan for You episode. For those who aren't familiar, this was a show that completely slid by my radar. It came out in 2013. And I knew of it because of my kids. My kids are into it's interesting. They're into like a different generational comedic thing than I am. They like Tim and Eric and, they got into Nathan Fielder, that sort of thing. But he achieved some, he's Canadian. He started out as a writer on Canadian Idol. He was funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then he started doing little bits. There's some Canadian TV show called something like The Hourly News in 22 Minutes. And he would do little bits, kind of like what he does on Nathan for You. So
interesting. He's so good. It blows my mind. And then just his facial expressions and how he stays in the moment.
Yeah, his stone face is to not to be believed, right? So for anyone who hasn't seen the show, the premise is kind of great, and it's very much of our times. It's like a business help show, right? He looks around for businesses and small businesses, cell phone businesses that need help for some reason. So, and he goes in there and comes up with like the most insane and ridiculous premises you can ever think of, and people bite, so it's very much a prank show. It's very much in the genre of like Sacha Baron Cohen. And for example, Sacha Baron Cohen's recent show, Who is America? Nathan Fielder was actually one of the head writers on that show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, he's someone to pay attention to. If you like this kind of humor, it's kind of mean. It's a little mean, but, he sets the traps and people willfully and happily walk right into them. So what do you do? It's kind of like that. So. But the shtick is, so for this episode, this is just to give you an example of what the whole show is like. He finds some moving company, and he goes in and says, so like, what's your biggest problem and what's your biggest expense? It's like, well, they're both the same problem. It's like, I have trouble keeping my guys, finding movers and keeping them. And they're also my biggest expense, paying people to move the furniture. So Nathan comes up with this idea called The Movement, which is essentially he wants to sell people on the idea that they can lose weight and get in shape by moving furniture. Instead of spending money at the gym, for half that much money or whatever, for a monthly membership, they can move furniture for this guy, and it kind of goes on from there. But he gets so deeply into it. He's so committed to the idea, right? It's not that would just kind of fall flat if that's all he did. But what he does,
they take it to absurd levels,
right?
And he stays utterly serious, and it gets even more absurd and more absurd. And I love how I've seen this in other episodes where they get media coverage for really silly things.
Yes. Like for instance, I mean, probably the one that people might have heard of that he got a lot of media coverage for was Dumb Starbucks. That was his idea, where he opened up a shop right next door to a Starbucks called Dumb Starbucks, and he had dumb lattes, dumb ventis, and he was giving everything away for free. And I think it caused quite a stir. And it was done, it was done months before this show aired, and people were like, what the hell is this? And it made the newspapers or whatever. So
that's how I found out about the show. And that was, he opened Dumb Starbucks really close to me in Los Feliz.
Right. So anyway, it goes on from there, and he hires a spokesman. He finds some guy who's like a gym rat, this like overly exomorphic, I guess you could say, just guy bursting at the seams. And this guy goes to the gym for hours every day, and he tells him, so like, you have to tell people you've never been to a gym in your life and you got this way from just moving furniture. And he's like, okay. And people, it's just so great the way just like the idea of like being on TV, you know, or getting some sort of attention. People are like willing to like sign away their souls, basically, you know?
Yeah, because when he does the he's like, you're gonna be the spokesman, and then he's signing the contract, and he goes, and on the contract it says, we have the right to use your DNA if you die and clone you. And the guy signs it, and it's just, it's great that it shows the absurdity of how far people will go just to get their face on TV.
Yeah, and he also finds like a guy who vaguely looks like him, who's grossly overweight, and he uses him as like the before picture. He's got the before and after picture.
And the news media bit, they show it. They all the news were like, "Well, look at him 100 pounds ago, and look at him now."
Yeah. So then what he does though, how he gets the media exposure, and this is as a writer, I love this. He goes on Craigslist looking for a writer, you know, and he gets this guy to like write a book for him. And I forget exactly how he put it. He says, you know, he gives him the basic premise. It's going to be the life story of Jack Garbadino, right? The spokesman's name.
Yeah.
And you got to make it exciting. And just talk about at some point about how he discovered the movement and it made him really strong. But we need backstory, like how he grew up, but none of it has to be true. Just make just whatever you feel like writing. So the guy writes this just insane, just, you know, a guy who answers an ad for a writer on Craigslist. And it's just say he's not top notch, perhaps, this would be the fairest way.
I got to say, he has the wandering eye. I was watching, he's got a wandering eye. So when he looks at him, the one eye is going like this and the other's like this. And it's just so perfect to have this like ghostwriter just sit there and go, okay. And one eye is going. Yeah. Like, where did you find this guy?
And he writes this story about how like Jack Garbadino, like at one point went into the jungle to help jungle children. And I love the part that he just put in that he was a childhood friend of Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
And then the great part, this is the part that I loved about this episode. So then Nathan goes on like, you know, Amazon Kindle Direct or whatever, and gets a few hundred copies of the books published and then sends them out to like every TV station, local news, morning news show in California. And then someone picks it up. Someone actually said, oh, look at this book. It's written by a local guy. This sounds interesting. And they get Jack Garbadino on there. Mm-hmm. And it's hilarious because he just rolls with it. Now, like, so we understand you were childhood friends with Steve Jobs. It's, oh, yeah. And he just backs up the book.
Now with that guy, I wonder if he isn't. I wonder how far into it he is, because he does feel it does seem like he's a little bit of an actor, but they're just throwing him off.
I mean, it could be. You know, you have to wonder with any show like this, if this kind of a reality TV show, are some of the people coached? Did they pull some strings to get the TV stations to? You know, get this guy, but he's on like half a dozen news shows, and he's like, I'm just saying.
Yeah, even in Utah, he was on a morning show in Utah. Yeah. So that means they picked up the dime to get into Utah.
Yeah, and then it's you know, and then they're asking him, so what was it like working with jungle children? You know,
he's like, well, one of them died.
Yeah, and one of the kids died, and it's just so outrageously ridiculous. And then he actually, of course, ends up getting people to come and join the club, and he gets, you know, he actually makes it happen. So a couple other things about this show that I love too is that the book, the actual self-published book, The Movement, you can buy it on Amazon. It was an Amazon bestseller. It actually hit the bestseller list on Amazon. I personally did buy a copy a few years ago for my kids. It's something to behold.
Yeah.
It's got like drawings in there, illustrations that the guy did that are like stick figure. You know, he has like a stick figure picture of the Jungle Kids, Jack.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, that's a smart idea, because they even were selling dumb Starbucks mugs and stuff. And
right.
It kind of merchandised it well.
Yeah, and also, but speaking of merchandise, there was another episode he did. There's a outdoor sporting goods clothing called Taiga, and they at one point gave some award to a Holocaust denier. So Nate, did you ever hear this one? That's one of the other famous episodes. So he created his own company called Summit Ice, and it's just again the same absurdity, ridiculousness, whatever. You know, he goes to a sporting goods store and he's got it like full of like Nazi memorabilia, you know, and he's like, do you want to support, you know, that or Summit Ice? And anyway, again, what's funny though is that so it became a thing, and you can see there, if you Google it, there are pictures of various celebrities wearing Summit Ice jackets, and he gives all of the profits that he made to like a Holocaust center, and he's made like $500,000 in sales that he's donated to charities. So
this is when I go back and go, you know what, entertainment is doing great things. It's because he's hitting it at all angles, and it's, you know, it's just great, and that's it. And then, you know, I just love seeing a reaction like that where people buy into it, and then it's
there's a couple of other things I want to talk about the show. Is that first of all, there's like, I don't know, 4 seasons. There were some recurring characters in the show, which are great. There's like one Private Eye that he uses.
Oh my God, and he was in this episode.
Yeah, who's the ex-porn star.
And that was hilarious. I was in Penthouse Magazine, so you were in porn? No, it was entertainment.
Oh my God. And that guy's in multiple episodes over the seasons, and he like hates Nathan. You know, you can just tell he like truly hates him, but he is willing to go back on the show. There's an ex-judge lawyer who he goes to for legal advice frequently. He just like completely ridicules him. And so he's a very good sport. And if you like this kind of humor, it's like, go ahead. Oh, there's another classic episode. The Ghost Realtor is another classic. A realtor who's in touch with spirits and will sell you a house guaranteed 100% to be ghost free.
Oh my God.
And then they do seances, and this is right up my sick, dark, nasty vein of sense of humor. So
same here. I just love it so much. It's, you know, but it's also, I love Sacha Baron Cohen's work. You know,
so if you liked Borat, you got to check this out. This is you know, very much in that same vein. And then actually, I named this a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, as one of the best TV shows of the year. Was the series finale he did, where he went back and like met lots of people, and he was looking for his lost love, and it was just like actually really touching and sad and profound. The very final episode of Nathan for You. Yeah.
Oh wow, that sounds good.
Oh, and another recurring character comes back, and that is also great. He's a Bill Gates impersonator. You know,
oh really?
I mean, this is the kind of thing too. He's always putting ads out looking for an actor as a Bill Gates impersonator, and like people show up, right? So he picks this guy, looks nothing like Bill Gates, doesn't sound like him at all. It's like, you're hired, you know. It's
and that's the beauty about Los Angeles, is there are people that will do anything, and it's just hilarious.
Yeah, the soil is you know, what's the rife for the plow or whatever, plenty of grist for the mill. No shortage of it. I suppose Los Angeles is maybe more so than most a town of delusions, you know.
Is it a delusion or is it a dream?
Yeah. Well, there's the old joke too. It's like, what's the difference between Las Vegas and Los Angeles? In Las Vegas, after people lose, they go back home. So. Oh, sorry. See, I'm mean. That was a mean joke. Anyway, I highly recommended the general TV show, Nathan for You. You could start with this episode, The Movement. You'll get the idea whether you're in or not. And buy the book. And
it's fantastic because I have a hard time finding shows that really make me laugh right now, especially in pandemic and our politicals. Everything's just crushing in. My soul is feeling crushed. and then
Yes.
I can watch an episode of Nathan for You, and I actually like laugh and forget about where we are.
Yes. Yes. If this is up your alley, humor wise, you will get some belly laughs. It's not like a chuckle. You'll just be,
Yeah.
It doesn't quite reach the moments of the naked wrestling scene of Borat, which I remember seeing that in the movie theater and literally laughing so hard I couldn't breathe for like
Yeah.
a couple of minutes. I didn't quite get there, but close. I mean, you really, it's good. This is a good show, and I will give it a.
We agree again. We agree.
I don't know, Tony. I'm disappointed.
Where's our conflict? We have no conflict.
We need conflict. Grr. Do I punch this way? I can't remember. I think the camera's reversed. I think
punch up. Punch up.
That's right. We only punch up here. We only punch up. Yeah. Which you could give as a critique of Nathan. He's punching down a little bit. I mean, he rounds up like deluded losers to help him in his quest, except for the actual business owners who are always kind of like going along with it, like the guy who owns the moving company, And at the end, he was like, well, wasn't that fantastic? And it's like, no.
Oh, I love that, and I wonder, yeah, because I just when I see those scenes, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I was there on set to see how they set it up, to see when they get those shots. I'm like, I'm trying to figure out, wait, did they throw them together without Nathan there, and then kept them, and then just cut it in a different way? It's so much fun.
Yeah, so that they shoot a lot of film and they do a lot of editing to get it to. And again, I would love to know how much of this is actually scripted, how many of the people, but it doesn't feel that way. It really doesn't. These feel like real deluded people. I mean, like the newscasters on TV, they were clearly the real morning show newscasters who were just dying for any kind of content, something to, spend 3 minutes on in the morning to fill up some time.
Right. And it's, I think they, like, in reality, they have a lot of segment producers that kind of sit there and steer the story. So they have an idea of where they want it to go.
Right.
And then hope for magic.
Yep. And I'll just say one last thing before we go. He started out as a magician. That was his first foray into show business as a teenager. What is it with comedians and magic? You could say that I think if like 50% of the famous comedians, at least probably started out doing magic. So kind of interesting.
Well, I do. I mean, I love magicians. I interviewed Robert Zabrecky, who's a magician, and just kind of. I forgot. I'm veering here, but I read his memoir, and it was just like, oh my God, it's such a storytelling element. To be a great musician is an act 1, act 2, act 3 storytelling.
And it's kind of, you think about the connection between that and comedy, right? There's like the sleight of hand that's going on, right? Like leaving you with enough, hey, look over there while I'm sort of setting up the joke down here, and I'm gonna, do a comeback later, and you'll go, whoa, and that's like the most basic trick of comedy, the callback.
Yeah.
And people are generally blown away by it. Like, oh my God, he brought it all the way back to what he started talking about in the first 5 minutes. And, and once you see the trick, you go like, well, yeah, that was obvious, that he was going to do that.
Right.
But anyway, check it out, folks. Nathan for you.
Watch TV.
Tony and Bernard for us. See you later.